Back with another video, and before we start, check out the membership option for the YouTube channel. All my members will be getting a free copy of my book when it's out at the end of the month, and they get exclusive content, write-up of the tactical theory and all the explanations of these tactical concepts. After every video I try and make one from the key concepts of the teams, so be sure to check out the membership option for the YouTube channel and check out Keyframe, and that's how I've been making these videos. Both links are in the description below, so be sure to check that out. But let's get right into it. So Liverpool and Real Madrid played in the Champions League yesterday. Liverpool went with their back four in possession of the ball, and then through the midfield they used a false nine, but instead of Firmino it was Jota who got the start over Firmino, and Keita as well through the half spaces, and he started over Thiago, but Thiago was a first half substitute to then come in for Keita. And this was a pretty big shift in the match. Real Madrid, they played a 4-1-4-1, but often their midfield was quite flexible and their man orientation made this subject to change. We often saw a midfielder also jumping towards the center backs to press the center back, so their formation was very flexible, but Casemiro was the lone pivot in the defensive phase with Benzema as the lone forward. And for Liverpool, the players in midfield, Fabinho was alongside Keita and then Wijnaldum, and then Jota would then come in to midfield as the false nine to then try and secure possession in advanced areas and progress the ball wider, while Mane and Salah inverted to then pin the back four. So now another look. Trent Alexander-Arnold at the right fullback position. He had a deeper role than Andy Robertson for the most part, and Trent often played as a deep line playmaker in their asymmetric back four, and this was often in reference to Fabinho and Wijnaldum or Keita or Thiago when he came on, playing in this role in the half spaces to create these three players in front of the two center backs to create strong circulation, as well as having deep lying playmakers to then stretch out the Real Madrid midfield to pull them further forward and exploit the space between the lines. But then we see Keita on the weak side playing slightly higher, and Wijnaldum playing more of the box-to-box role. Even though both players did it, and we'll see Keita, he was much more on the ball, creating superiority and playing first-line passes and over shorter distances. And when Thiago plays in this role, he plays deeper and looks to stretch the game with his range of passing. But from here we can see Real Madrid, as we just talked about, their jumping midfielder towards the center back, Luka Modric, which forces Casemiro to jump into the midfield four. And with Modric jumping here, we have Casemiro following suit to maintain vertical connections and maintain access to the Liverpool midfielders, so their midfielders can't receive the ball with time and space and create superiority while they progress the ball. So now, looking at Liverpool in the build-up phase and Real Madrid in their high block, they used their wingers in their high block mainly in reference to the Liverpool fullbacks. Benzema was the lone nine, so he had the job of cutting the field, or he would stay in more reference to the space rather than the players in Liverpool's front line, because as we see here, when Alisson's used, they're able to create numerical superiority, and with Real Madrid's man orientation, it can be a bit easier to use the space to find the free man, as has happened here, as we see Liverpool using possession, and then we have Andy Robertson, Wijnaldum, and Trent Alexander-Arnold in their high block, taking advantage of the space and looking to unbalance the Real Madrid defense. So moving higher up the field now, we have a clear shape from Real Madrid, and we have our players. I'll just shorten this a little bit so we can see the players better. We have our back four here, and the Real Madrid back line is very influenced by players like Salah, as we see here. Salah going towards the ball in the mutual help space, creating a four-man rondo situation around the ball, with Trent Alexander-Arnold holding the width in the wide area as Naby Keita comes deeper. But this is an example of where I spoke earlier about Naby Keita using his first line passing options in the mutual help space, whereas players like Thiago, they can find a longer pass and more advanced options through their range of passing, as we see Diego Jota playing as the false nine has then the ability to take advantage of the space in behind, but it wouldn't be found with a player like Keita because he's much more first line passes and tight interchanges of possession. But Real Madrid, playing in their defensive setup, we have Benzema, the lone forward, and we have our winger, Toni Kroos, Luka Modric, and Marcus Asensio stepping forward to then make their line of four with Casemiro as the lone six and Benzema as the lone nine. And then we also have three Liverpool players in the rest defense, or creating the second line of passing options from their defenders, as we see Wijnaldum dropping deeper next to Fabinho and Keita. And these players in front of the two central defenders allow Andy Robertson to play higher up the field and Trent Alexander-Arnold to maintain the width and height of the team. So now a really clear setup of Real Madrid's defense, and we can even see how the back four is influenced by the Liverpool players in possession, as we see the two wingers inverting, giving Jota more freedom, and this separating the back four, putting them in two separate systems and using their partnerships on the different side of the field. So now, as we have our midfield four ahead of Casemiro, and we have Casemiro controlling the space between the lines, with Benzema trying to limit circulation into the pivot. But we have Casemiro playing between the lines to try and take care of advanced area options from Liverpool, while Liverpool playmaker, as we see Wijnaldum dropping deeper, with players like Mane and Naby Keita now interchanging their heights and changing up who's playing between the lines and who's coming deeper for the ball, pulling the Real Madrid midfield further forward to then try and create these spaces in the half space. So now Liverpool in their initial build-up, using the goalkeeper again, they build up with Alisson splitting the two center defenders and with slightly deeper fullbacks, and now Wijnaldum dropping deeper. This is to then emphasize the space in behind the Real Madrid midfield in their 4-1-4-1, as we see here, Toni Kroos and Madrid stepping on to then try and take advantage of the space in the half spaces outside of the reach of Casemiro. Now, a few more pictures of Real Madrid's defensive setup, with Benzema forcing the ball to one side, and now Thiago coming into the picture, and Thiago already playing deeper than Keita, allowing him to use his range of passing to find the midfield, and we see Jota playing the false 9 role, using his freedom to find the half spaces and then get in between the lines and to create this wide structure with Andy Robertson, Wijnaldum, and Jota to then look to progress to find superiority behind the ball and even to try and pull out Casemiro from his pivot position and open up space in more advanced areas. Now for the Liverpool goal. Liverpool's goal came from their initial build-up, and it was a very vertical build-up with Alisson being the starting point, and when the ball goes wide, we can just take a look at Trent Alexander-Arnold's positioning, just a few yards off of the touchline, giving him a little bit of a diagonal passing option into a player like Wijnaldum, coming from the center corridor, moving into the wide area to take advantage of the space that can't be covered by Vinicius's cover shadow. So when this happens, the vertical pass is played into Salah, and with Mendy jumping, we have Wijnaldum able to take advantage of the space. With then, because of Mendy's jumping, we have numerical equality between the Liverpool players and the Real Madrid defenders. So with Mendy jumping, this leaves the Madrid backline a bit exposed, while they still have the cover of their 6 Casemiro to beat as well. But when it enters the final third, Wijnaldum is able to go by Casemiro after diving in, and then we see in the final third, and what we see is Jota getting in possession of the ball with Mane and Salah to the left and right of him. Jota through the half space here, and with the runs of Salah and Mane, they just run on the outside of the back 4 to look. Salah's main goal here is to play in the blind side of the Real Madrid defenders. Mane is looking to enter in the most dangerous space, which would be the assist zone, or to look to break the back 4 if possible. But here, looking to enter into this area of the box from a pass from Jota, while stretching the fullbacks wider to then isolate the center backs, not giving them as much cover. But from here, Jota will take it himself, and a deflection will fall to Salah, who then benefits from being in the blind side of Nacho, and then he's there for the finish. So now Real Madrid in possession. Their width was created from their fullbacks, Lucas Vazquez, and the left-sided fullback for Real Madrid. This allowed Asensio and Vinicius to go more centrally through the half spaces and narrow the Liverpool back 4, which gave the Real Madrid fullbacks a little bit more freedom, and through wide fullbacks, this made it a little bit hard for the Liverpool wide players, as we see Mane and Salah, because of their pressing system with their responsibilities to use their cover shadow when pressing. Wide fullbacks makes it a little bit more challenging because they have a greater space to cover, which makes the cover shadow a bit more ineffective when trying to win the ball back. And then the midfield 3 stagger themselves a bit, and with the man orientation and the new threat of players playing between the lines, this put their midfield under a little bit of pressure, and it displaced their positioning at times with Jota as the lone forward. So now we see again the Real Madrid shape, but this time we look at the numerical overload that Real Madrid in possession used, and we can just see how many players are around the ball on one side, with Toni Kroos and Luka Modric being able to drop deeper, then pinning the full Liverpool team to one side, creating overload and isolate principles, trying to use the range of Toni Kroos and his passing ability in possession of the ball, but by pulling the Liverpool players all to one side, this creates the ability for Lucas Vazquez to then go a bit higher in possession and take advantage of the free space with the overload and isolate principle, trying to get a one-on-one with Lucas Vazquez and Andy Robertson. Now we see where the goal came from. Toni Kroos dropping deeper, taking advantage of the lack of pressure in the front line when they build up in their own third. Then we see Asensio, Benzema, and now Vinicius. And with the fullbacks advancing, as we see here, the fullback advancing, Trent steps to the fullback a little too much. Benzema takes the attention of Phillips, which gives Vinicius the ability to run at the back four from a deeper area and look to receive a long ball over the top. And although it's a low percentage pass, Vinicius is able to get on the end of it and score the goal for Real Madrid. In the build-up, the two center backs were split by the goalkeeper, and the width again being held by Mendy and Vazquez, and just playing slightly more narrow as we saw earlier, Trent Alexander-Arnold giving a little bit more space so they're not right out of bounds if they have to go any wider. And then we see the pressing system from Liverpool, as we always do, with Salah coming narrow, using his cover shadow to take away the fullback. And we see Mane now coming deeper, with Jota playing as the weak side winger. They're a very fluid front three, being able to then interchange these roles. And the key thing is Trent Alexander-Arnold now jumping, leaving numerical equality behind him, defending in a 3-on-3 situation. And again, Thiago jumping, using man orientation through the midfield to null the Real Madrid influence in more advanced situations in the midfield. So now we can just take a look. The last picture here of the man orientation used by Liverpool when they are pressing in the front line, and we said Trent Alexander-Arnold jumping, creating a 3v3 defensive situation in the back. But that's the analysis, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.